For 531. Welcome, everybody, to the 531 on Tony Khan's Worst Ideas Working Fans podcast. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Producer Joe's feeling a little under the weather today, and that's okay. You know what, Joe? Before you even say a word, you know what you need? You need some Dubby.
Go to Dubby.gg, use code FANSWORKING for 10% off your order, and you'll have twice as much energy as me. I don't know if you'll have as much as AJ. Word is AJ overdosed on Dubby yesterday, and we don't know if he's going to be okay, but episode 219, Dave's here. I've got a cold, but I'm here, and I couldn't miss Tony Khan's worst ideas, even though most people that we put this list out to missed it. You know, that's the one thing I got to say about this list is everybody, and I said it to Jake St. John, everybody's got a complaint about Tony Khan, but then when you ask them to narrow down like what exactly his bad ideas are, everybody clams the fuck up. But you will find that later on in the show. First up, Dave, I think we got a pay-per-view tonight.
We got a pay-per-view. We got Bound for Glory coming at you tonight. And this card, Joey, I'm going to pull it up right here, looks like a banger. There it is, Joe. Thank you. He's still on it. I told him I had it, but I don't have shit. Joey's the producer. He's got it here. Bound for Glory tonight, October 21st. And right away, the first match on this card, Will Ospreay versus Mike Bailey. Are you kidding me? Like, Will Ospreay, the year he's having, not just in New Japan, but the matches he's having in AEW. I can't think of a talent that's gone from one promotion that he doesn't work for to another where they have a working relationship, where he's basically won on every major pay-per-view. So not only is Will putting on these phenomenal matches, he's just been booked so strong.
Yeah, he's been talking about the year he had and how he's been on 3 or 4 companies' biggest cards, talking about how his future could possibly lie in Impact Wrestling, which I would be very surprised by, but saying something like that almost makes me buy the show. Now, we did buy the show. I would say, 1, because of the Will Ospreay match, obviously, but 2, because Bound for Glory usually delivers. Now, we don't regularly keep up with Impact, but it doesn't mean we're not fans. And some of the matches they have on this card are, you know, really, I think they're going to steal the show. Ospreay, Mike Bailey is obviously one of them. You got to go to that title match with Josh Alexander coming back to take on Alex Shelley. Got a little bit of that cold fog on me. I remembered the main event. And Dave, let them know some of the other matches on here.
Yeah, there we go, baby. We got MK Ultra, Killer Kelly, and Masha Slamovich versus Deonna Purrazzo and Tasha Steelz for the Impact Tag Championship. Chris Sabin versus Kenta. That's for the X Division title. So again, we're going to have some more New Japan talent in that match. The Rascals, Trey Miguel, Zachary Wentz versus ABC. That's Ace Austin and Chris Bay. That's a talented team right there. The Call Your Shot Gauntlet. I don't have the participants here in this, but it's a 20-person intergender Call Your Shot. The winner receives a trophy and a contract they can invoke anytime within 1 year for a championship match of their choosing. So kind of impacts Money in the Bank. PCO versus Rhino versus Steve Macklin versus Moose Monsters Ball. Look at some of the legendary Monster Ball matches like AJ Styles and Abyss. You know, Abyss was such a known talent. These usually always deliver. It's basically an anything goes match. Rhino is a veteran of these. PCO is insane. This should be awesome. Trinity versus Mickie James. Great storyline here. Mickie James had put her career on the line, almost similar to what Ric Flair did in the WWE many, many years ago, where every match was a career match, and she wasn't stepping away until she lost. She won the title. Mickie got injured. They did the storyline where she stepped away, but now she's back, and she's facing the champ Trinity. And the main event, Alex Shelley, a guy who's been one of the top performers for years, who got his chance to win the gold this year, is the man in Impact Wrestling, is taking on Josh Alexander, who arguably had the greatest run in Impact in a long time. I mean, as far as like homegrown grown talents, Josh Alexander was killing it before he got injured, and now he's back.
Yeah, now look at the amount. Look at the people in that Monsters Ball match. That is going to be a hoss fight. And I should have had you do this before we read all the matches off, but do you want to read all the matches and then we'll quickly give our picks?
We could do a
Sorry
pick.
to have to read them all again.
All right, Ospreay and Bailey. Ospreay.
Gotta be Ospreay, 100%.
All right, Sabin and Kenta. X Division. I'm gonna go Sabin on that one. I say the belt stays in Impact.
I got Kenta.
All right, we'll see. Masa Slamovich and Killer Kelly. I'll go. They win the tag team championships over Pirano and Steel.
I believe they are the champions.
Hold on. Yes.
I want Perazo and Steels so much, but from what I'm gathering, ABC is a team that now I haven't watched much Impact, so Perazo and Steels could be a team that regularly teams up. But Masha Slamovich, the year she had last year going into this year, she's got to hold the tag titles. I think that's too good a team.
Yep, and I'm gonna go again. Maybe if I follow Impact a little more closely every week, this one's a little tougher for me, but I will keep the titles on the Rascals over Austin and Bay for now.
Ooh, just to do something different, I'm gonna say ABC gets it because they are yet another faction of the Bullet Club that's kind of out there, and I like Ace Austin's chances. Chris Bay, incredible talent.
I have no idea who's in this Call Your Shot gauntlet. I will say that Crazy Steve is a guy that they've been profiling lately. They've had, different things with him, almost similar to Mick Foley back in the day with JR, with Mankind, where look behind the person. And now he's come back with different face paint and more of a character. I'm going to say he wins this without knowing even the participants.
I'm going to tie this into a little possible news coming out of this event. And this is a long shot. This is me going all in. But I'm going to say CM Punk wins the Call Your Shot scramble because there's been various reports. This week it came out that WWE was looking to sign CM Punk, and then there's word there's no interest, depending on what Facebook page you believe. He was offered a contract by Impact. And what makes that interesting is, do you know where tonight's Bound for Glory is?
As soon as you said this, I did not know, but yes, it's Chicago. So
Cicero Stadium in Chicago, a building that MLW usually runs. So the likelihood of this is it's a long shot because if CM Punk has between Impact and WWE, it's not like WWE is going to announce that he's coming back. But there's a part of me that wants to believe that CM Punk really is in it for the wrestling, is in it to develop the talent. And I think somebody that really needs that right now is Impact. So I'm going the long shot on that one.
I would be happy if he went to Impact Wrestling, and I would hope it would work out. PCO versus Rhino versus Macklin versus Moose. Monsters Ball. I'm going to go Steve Macklin. He's the guy they've been developing on Impact. I say he gets it done.
Yeah, it's got to be Macklin because I see Macklin versus Alexander down the road. Not to give away another pick on this card.
Hey, listen. Trinity versus Mickie James for the Knockouts title. I'm going to go Trinity because I have this sneaking suspicion Mickie James might not be in WWE much. I mean, she might not be in Impact much longer. I'm thinking she came back to finish this story, popular term nowadays in wrestling, and she'll lose, put Trinity over, and we might see her with her husband down the road.
I see the same win, but I see it more because this is a time to, Trinity has the title, and it makes her stronger to defend it and retire Mickie James from Impact than it does for her to lose it and chase it. So I see Trinity as well.
By the way, I just found the names for the Call Your Shot gauntlet. We'll get back to that though. We'll stick with your Punk theory though, because it'll be a mystery, obviously. Alex Shelley versus Josh Alexander. I say Josh Alexander gets the title back because as much as I love Alex Shelley, this is Josh's run that he was on before, and I think it's time to reclaim it.
Yeah, Alexander was on such a run before having to relinquish that belt. And like the matchups we could see, him versus Macklin. Let's say Punk comes back, him versus Punk. This guy, he is a top star at Impact. Sadly, I feel like anywhere else he would like kind of slide to the mid card. And that's not because of a lack of talent. It's because everybody else is so stacked. Impact seems to have the right size roster where Josh Alexander makes that perfect champion, I think.
I agree. All right, call yourself Gauntlet. There's other names that are technically in it, but we'll stick with Joe's prediction because obviously that would be a surprise. Jake Something, Dirty Dango, Champagne Singh, Eric Young, Jordan Grace, Brian Myers, Shira, Kylan King, Jody Threat, Bully Ray, Joe Hendry, Frank Kazarian, Kenny King, Deshelle Saw, Eddie Edwards. I'm just mentioning this because I'm going to change my pick. Obviously, Crazy Steve is not in here, and he's not somebody that I would see as some kind of surprise. So without knowing, well, I'm hoping for Joe's prediction, but we'll see what happens. But I'll go with Eddie Edwards out of the names that we're in.
Now that I hear the names in there, I'm going to go with the most likely pick is going to be Dirty Dango, and the returning Vladimir Kozlov is going to help him because that was another note from this week that Kozlov returned to Impact to help Dirty Dango.
All right. Well, on that note, segue here, ladies and gentlemen, I think Joe's prediction of CM Punk would be awesome for Impact Wrestling. It'd be major news for that company. But another company making major news is NWA Wrestling. They announced this week they are moving to the CW. They're going to be on. They're going to have a TV deal. This is where NWA Power is going to take place. And they're also going to have a behind-the-scenes kind of reality type show on the Going On. I think I hope it's not similar to what we saw with AEW, but I think that that could be something that NWA could do well. But regardless, I'm very happy for the NWA to be on the CW. I would be happier if this was the NWA that we saw that originally broke out with Eddie Kingston, Ricky Starks, LA Knight, Nick Aldis, and so on and so on. That would have been an amazing thing to happen.
That would have been amazing, but you really can't shit on the lineup they have right now. You've got the Southern Six with Kerry Morton. You've got the Fixers with Wrecking Ball Legursky. You've got Trevor Murdoch there still. You've got AJ Kazana. You've got so many great talents in the NWA that this could be a very good time for them to get on TV. And people might be complaining about them getting on the CW, saying like the CW is not a name channel. But when you look at where the CW ranks versus where other wrestling, like channels, other wrestling federations are on, it is comparable. Now, you would have to go to the internet to research it because I saw it last night. I didn't write that fact down, but I was kind of like about the CW until I read where it ranked amongst other cable channels. And this is a huge opportunity. Now, the behind the scenes show, I'm less excited about, but I will say one place that it could be cool is when they go on these World is a Vampire tours with the Smashing Pumpkins. If you showed the behind the scenes of the music and the wrestling, I think that could be very cool. Now, NWA has done stuff with AAA in Mexico and put it on their YouTube. There was talk this week that Billy Corgan wants to bring back the territorials, and he's starting with somebody out in the Midwest. And I think that is amazing. I think this is the NWA's next big step. And if you can watch NWA TV, the whole reason that I think Power didn't catch on as big as it could have is because it got attention for a certain amount of time, and then people cooled off on it, just depending on who left. And this is a company you want to stick with because no matter how you feel about how they do wrestling, they present it in a unique way for the most part. There are some things that are derivative, but the NWA is a product that's been on the rise for the past couple of years, and it really is worth everybody fully getting behind it and supporting this so we can still keep seeing NWA shows go on.
For sure. It's healthy for the business too. So we wish the NWA good luck. Like we wish all promotions good luck. We wish AEW good luck. And speaking of AEW, let's talk about it this week. Our top 5, the 531, Tony Khan's worst ideas. We had this because we've done one about Vince McMahon before, and we thought, hey, it might be fitting to look at some of Tony Khan's worst ideas as well. And as Joe talked about,
we did it though. Oh, okay, yeah, go say. I was just gonna say, like, we picked it because we thought so many people would get on this list because it's almost in fashion to pick on what AEW does wrong or the things that you don't like about it. But we gave the internet a chance, and we're not going to shit on Josh DeBoard. So, Josh, grab your tissues. But we gave you a chance to voice your unhappiness with Tony Khan, and your response was just 5. And I said, pick the top 5 because there's plenty. There was no response. There was no response from a lot of people in the Mothership Facebook group who, you know, took their shots. But I want to tell you, somebody from the Mothership group who actually commented on the Working Fans Podcast Nation of Domination page, and this is a real one from Philadelphia, Phil Allen. He gave us starting AEW, going at WWE, fascination with WWE stars of his childhood, Kenny Omega on top, Orange Cassidy on TV ever. Now, what I like is that Phil did include a couple like talking points from the Cornette, you know, universe, but going at WWE, very good one. Like, do like the NWA and just put out a good product. Don't put out your product versus somebody else. I believe you and I talked yesterday about Tony Khan getting former WWE wrestlers, and how when this started, it was going to be an alternative to WWE. It was going to be a chance for indie wrestlers that are coming up to maybe get featured on TV. And it seems like as time has gone on, that has changed a little bit, and it's become a mix of what indie guys have survived versus what WWE guys they've picked up and have made it.
Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, like Joe said, we didn't get a lot of response to this list as well, but I think that was one of the top things we did notice was the handling of certain talent. I'm going to read a couple because I got a couple one-word answers here from people. Scotty Magnum, he wrote exploding ring. So he didn't like that. I get that. That one was kind of a bust.
And the whole reason for it was because Onita, when they wanted to do an exploding ring match, they didn't want to do it to like the levels that were done in Japan.
Right.
And really, that's the only way you're going to get those kind of looks on an exploding ring match. If you want to see an example of an exploding ring match, I'm not going to say done the right way, but done Onita's way in the US. Look up Onita versus Matt Tremont. It was from like last year. Matt Tremont was in the hospital for like a week after that, after landing on one of those exploding boards. So they didn't do it right. I mean, it's almost safe for their people they didn't do it right. But if you can't do it right, why do it at all?
Joe, how many people you got there for list?
Let me see. I got myself and 4 other people.
All right. Why don't you? I only have I have a list. I got me and I got a comment. So what do you want to do?
Well, fucking awesome. Read your things and then I'll read my list and you can comment to save my voice a little bit.
Okay.
Sorry, it's not usually this deep and sultry, but you know what that.
The one comment I got was from Matt Lang. He's out there with me on the Bread Wars. I said, "What do you not like about Tony Khan?" He just responded, "I don't like Tony Khan." I said, "All right, Matt. Thank you for your input."
And let's dissect that a little bit because Tony Khan being unlikable coming across. What do you think are the things he does that make him most dislikable?
For me, it's social media. It's when, okay, you're gonna make a big deal out of these ratings wars. You're going head to head with NXT and all that jazz, and that's fine. And if you're winning, all right. But when you do lose, whether it's a jacked up roster with John Cena, Undertaker, or not, just let it go, man. Take the L. You can say, thank you to all the fans who tuned into AEW, or don't say anything at all. That's one of my favorite things to do when I get fucking beat up. I just shut the fuck up. I mean, you know what I mean?
It's a good way. I think for me personally, the moment that I kind of cashed out on Tony Khan was watch him during that CM Punk press conference. This is a man who's there's a situation going on in the company he owns right in front of him, and if you want to pick fight or flight, he was flight during that. He didn't address it at all. He didn't stop anything. And as somebody in charge, you need to take care of that situation. And that was especially damaging because look at a year later, they bring CM Punk back, and almost a year later, he is gone for not the same thing, but almost the same thing. You have a disciplinary issue that you could see clear as day coming from that first time. So as a manager, I'm not going to say he's ineffective because I'm not in a management position anymore. So I don't have that, that gravitas to pick on him, but he leaves some things to be desired. And I think we're going to hit that again more in some other people's lists.
All right. Let's see what you got.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring you first. Loyal listener of the show, Dave Fabe, has Brawl Out, tweeting, talking, booking, and Orange Cassidy. So we talked about that Brawl Out situation. You brought out the tweeting.
Yeah.
The talking is just more funny at this point because he'll come to introduce a show and it's supposed to rally everybody, but it sounds vaguely crazy. Mm-hmm. We'll get into the book. Oh.
I was just going to say another thing to expand on beyond the Twitter and stuff like that, a particular incident. When you go back to, it was a little over a year ago when NWA had that Women's Evolution pay-per-view, basically they did, and they had tag teams and stuff, and they were putting on these different tournament matches. Tony had loaned out some talent to the NWA, which good on him. But then some people were complaining that I'm trying to remember, but the gist of it was Tony talked about he lent out that talent that he wasn't responsible for paying them. He says it was a gift. And his analogy was this is the equivalent of I bought you a steak dinner and I waited around and you never said thank you. And I always thought, well, if I buy my friend steak dinner, like I appreciate that, but I'm not waiting for a thank you. Like, you know what I mean? Like I didn't do it because I'm expecting something in return. I did it because those are my friends. I have a little money. We're having a night with my boys. Hey, it's on me, and I don't feel like somebody owes me anything. And I think that
I almost feel like in that situation, it's like not that the thank you is implied, but especially in business, if you don't take a minute to say thank you, it could just be that there were so many other loose ends to like tie up or other things to do that the thank you not being said is less of a slight and more of an oversight.
Yeah, just let it go. Well, I'll give you a list here. I got Daniel Backley, friend of the show. His ideas were AEW Rampage, TNT title, Exploding Deathmatch. So we heard that again. Breaking up Santana and Ortiz, mismanaging Ring of Honor. And he did say, I should say not keeping Ring of Honor separate from AEW roster. So he would prefer there was more of a separation between ROH and AEW. But honestly, I like the mismanaging idea a little better because at the end of the day, you bought this entity, which is great, but you really didn't have a place for it. I mean, you ended up having to keep the same Ring of Honor streaming channel they had. But, there was no HBO Max. There was nothing that you were able to do with this. And it just sounds like you didn't really have a plan. And again, we see what we see. Ring of Honor is a talented lot of talented people go, but not many people are watching it.
I don't see mixing the ROH and AEW talent as the downfall. I see the problem as buying Ring of Honor and then just keeping their TV on Honor Club. Like, I don't see how that helps them. At the very least, YouTube. I mean, the NWA got CW, so how come they couldn't go for that kind of syndication? Almost do their own version of what Sinclair Broadcasting did, almost have them syndicated.
It's been making the rounds, but wow, Women of Wrestling too on syndication is getting better numbers some week than Collision and Rampage.
Not wild numbers, but just better numbers.
Better, yeah, but just through syndication. So there's an audience there for Women of Wrestling. Now, granted, we had the working fans know about this audience. We know who they might be. We've had a few people show up that whenever we put up a video of a attractive woman that happened to tune in a little more frequently. That being said, whatever that audience
will always win the internet. I'll tell you that if you look at it.
So I mean, it's syndication, but yeah, you would think that same syndication, it was there for Ring of Honor before. Why couldn't it be there again on some level?
Well, I'll tell you who's not in syndication. He is live, and that is Jake St. John. He brought me a list the other night. Funny story about Jake. I'll tell you off air, but he is starting with the Jake rule, not pushing Hook from the start. After that first match, man, he was on fire, and then he disappeared for weeks at a time. 5, whatever the fuck he's doing with Wardlow. At this point, I don't even know. Why would I even get invested in him? 4, allowing Jeff Jarrett and his band of nobody's TV time. I'm going to say except Jay Lethal, but I'm a Jay Lethal fan. I don't hate the Jeff Jarrett character, but I hate who he's surrounded with. Legit turn the channel heat. 3, not cutting Phil's mic or interrupting during his scrum rant. 2, allowing Cody Rhodes to lose the No World title match stipulation match. When Cody Rhodes lost the match and would never be allowed a world title match, I completely lost interest in him. To this day, I don't care about him. And 1, bringing back Phil from the scrum. So Jake St. John, author of Lip Sleeve Scars, Night Full of Diamonds. Check him out. We might even have something cooking up soon on his YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's a pretty good list, actually. I would definitely agree with most of that, too. In particular, the Cody thing, too, is very interesting. Although I would not say I've lost interest. Like, I think Cody's been handled pretty well in WWE, getting the Mania main event. I think there's still interest in Cody possibly taking on Roman again. That's another story, though. But, yeah, that was something that you want to get your stipulations taken seriously, but you just took out one of the most compelling characters in your company and you put him out of, there's no potential for him to be in a world title situation. I mean, what was the big thing about the original All In? It was Cody going for that NWA heavyweight title with Nick Aldis. It led people, really got people behind the card. You don't try to duplicate that with your own show where you could have him with guys like Jericho? I don't know. That's an interesting one by Jake. I got to agree with him. That definitely was something that was mismanaged, I believe.
I'm going to bring you another quick list because my brother bought us 3 items. He has tweeting anything, his promos, and giving too many wrestlers office jobs, which is very interesting because that's a double-edged sword. That is both amazing because it gives them, benefits. It gives them genuine stake in the company, but could it have led to issues between between anybody that has an issue with AEW and these wrestlers?
Absolutely. Look, I'm going to give you my list here. The last one from me here. I have the Exploding Ring. I have Twitter, now X, on there as well. Stay off it. It just makes you look bad. And his handling of CM Punk. I'm going to go a little bit more into that. And then I had, just because, again, I had trouble because I'm not like, I don't just get negative for no reason. So it was kind of hard for me to pick things out because I don't really pay attention to this. But when I started just looking at people that, man, I think they could be pushed a little better, Keith Lee and Brian Cage immediately came to mind as 2 super heavyweights that can move. And the argument with Keith Lee being, too, how mismanaged he was in WWE. I couldn't agree more. But what are we doing with Keith Lee now?
Exactly. Now I'm going to bring you Jesse from New Hampshire's list. He's got Exploding Ring, Big Show, Mark Henry, Jericho going through the fake ramp, and booking Orange Cassidy.
The fake ramp.
Now,
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with Orange Cassidy being on the show, maybe for how prominently he gets displayed, because he's a good wrestler. I like him, but he seems to be getting that heavy push, and I don't enjoy him like to the equivalent of that heavy push.
Well, he's not a main eventer.
Josh DeBoard. Tony Khan only has good ideas. Josh, you must have cracked that 9:30 a.m. beer. But let us know some of your favorite ideas of his.
Yeah. I going back to that mismanaging of Punk situation too. Just because I think that's been a big one. I wanted to expand on that just a little bit more too. I have no doubt that Punk was definitely mostly the problem here by his behavior, but there was stuff that happened before that and stuff that happened when he came back with Jack Perry. It just could have been nipped in the bud. It may be a more professional run organization. Maybe that's harsh wording it that way, but would have been able to handle, and you would have still been able to have your biggest star.
I will say, as an employee that sometimes has an attitude problem, you can have an attitude problem all you want, but the right management will kind of hone that in and keep that from becoming a bigger issue. So, yeah, it's a little on Punk, but it is also on Tony Khan for just not trying at all, it seems, to really rein it in. It seems like he has the trouble that some people run into when they hit management of wanting to be friends with everybody, wanting everybody to be happy versus everything running as it should. Like when I ran a seafood department, I was, I wanted people to be happy, but I also knew there was just a line that you can't let people cross as far as like doing their job. If they're not doing their job and they continually kind of step that thing, there has to be pushback. It can't always be, come on, bud, what can we do about this? It's got to be like, this has to stop. Sometimes you have to put your foot down, and I don't think that he did it. And Josh DeBoard bringing us his list here, hiring Punk, that's a good one, you can argue, because if he was never capable of managing Punk, why bring him in? Not booking actual stories, just throws matches together. That is interesting because there are times where they do stories, but I would say a lot of the time it's a match thrown together maybe a week or two before. He should never be on screen ever. I agree with you as far as him being like a competent figurehead, but when he comes out and gets the crowd hyped up, nothing is funnier. Scaring off Cody, that's a good point. Something happened with Cody. The situation's never been addressed, never been talked about. And it would be interesting to see what pushed Cody away. Could Cody see that lack of management at the top? And lastly, trying to go after WWE, taking shots and all that. That is a very good point because like we said earlier, come out, be yourself, try not to compare yourself to anybody, and, just put out the best product you can. And thank you, Josh DeBoard, for the list. We said it a couple of weeks ago, but RIP to RSH, one of those podcasts we started out with. Really enjoyed what you did. We hope you're doing good, bud. I'm going to bring you my list last, and then we'll put together this top three. But I got not hiring a booker. It's become obvious quickly. Oh, it is coming back. I hopefully we can be a guest on there. We were sad to see you guys go, but we're happy to see you come back. Maybe. Hey, as Tyler Peters would say, we're praying for you, bud. But next on my list, I've got the handling of the CM Punk situation.
Yeah.
From the start to the end, I would say you got lucky selling out that building, not announcing him. Next time, just announce it. Go full on with it. Like the whole situation was handled weird, and any couple of factors could have led to CM Punk leaving. Hiring so many WWE X talents. Said it earlier. They were best at the start when they were like the best of the indies, when they were bringing in different people. And then, you need a couple WWE people, I guess. But then the more people that he brought in, it made their roster bigger. And then you silently squeezed out indie talents like Joey Janela. Whatever you think of him, he was a good addition to there. I'm not standing up for Marco Stunt, but he's another one brought in with high fanfare at the beginning for what? And then quietly squeezed out because their roster got too big. I'm going to put tweeting on the list because you can't be the head of a company and look credible and tweet like that. Like, in comparison, look how Vince McMahon conducted himself in life and how when that came out, that was such a scandal. Not that the tweeting is equivalent to that, but it's that kind of black mark on your wrestling career from something that doesn't apply to the wrestling career. You're hurting your own reputation just for something on the side, and then aiming to compete with WWE. Said it before, I'll say it again. The best way to do it, make the best product you can and just let it compete in the marketplace.
Okay. So as far as top three ideas go here for bad ideas, I think up top two, mismanaging of CM Punk. And I think we'll put Twitter, we'll put X, and we're going to talk about how he goes after WWE all under social media as number two, how he conducts himself on social media. And then the third one, maybe just handling of talents. But
yeah, we'll put handling of talent because that could be disciplinary, that could be booking. And the thing we want to say before we get to the end of this is we enjoy AEW. We enjoy Tony Khan. We just wanted to do this because I think if you're a fan of something deep enough, you can find the faults in addition to the things you like. Now, one thing I didn't get to watch it last night because I was having issues with getting it on my tablet, but starting off Rampage with Mystico versus Rocky Romero, CMLL title match. I think it's a middleweight title, I believe. 2 out of 3 falls. That was a great way to kick off. Having Danielson be the focus of Collision. Great idea. We have an idea for next week, but the following week, I'm going to call it now, Dave, 531, Tony Khan's best ideas. You're going to have to wait till the end of the show to find out what next week's 531 is.
Okay. Well, we still got to pick a winner for the...
I know. I'm getting ahead of us here. So now that we've got the Twitter WWE CM Punk handling of talent, what's the first to go?
I think the handling of talent will go because you can argue he's done some good pushes. There's some people that had good pushes too. I think it's a problem, but I don't think it's the main problem. I think the main problem was how he handled his top star, and that's what CM Punk was, and how, as the face of the company, he puts himself out there. I think that's our top two to argue.
100%. Now, what's been worse for Tony Khan? I'm going to say, I know a lot of people say the Twitter situation is bad for Tony Khan. I think his number one worst problem was the CM Punk situation. If you had brought him in and handled him right, you could have strapped a rocket to your company. Instead, now what you did is you had a star come in and out within a year, go out in a blaze of glory, have some of the best matches, and the thing that's sticking in people's minds is who's more at fault for this? You like to say, who was wrong here? Was it Punk? Was it Khan? And it's tough because it's almost like a tug of war for responsibility. They're both equally as responsible, and I think it looks bad on both of them. So I have to go with the CM Punk situation being number one.
I agree, but I think it's because it encompasses almost everything we're talking about. It's the mismanagement of talent when it comes to Punk, and it's even the taking shots in the media. Because here's the thing, Punk was so beloved that when Punk was taking shots at people, listen, you're going to have people that are hardcore WWE fans that were like, fuck you, Punk. But AEW fans were like, yeah, how often were we hearing this? Tell me when I'm telling lies. Tell me when I'm telling lies. But, when you mishandled Punk, and you fucking fucked them, then it became a lot of AEW fans within started to be like, I don't know about this. And that all falls on Khan's fault for, again, you mismanaged, you went all in on this, no pun intended, and it fell apart. And if you had maybe managed it better, you wouldn't have been in this situation.
That's an interesting point, that like no one of these issues exists on its own. They all kind of tie in together. So, I mean,
but go ahead, finish up. Go ahead.
If we're pushed to pick a number one, because obviously all three of these are the worst ideas. They're kind of commingled. But for the sake of the 5-3-1, we have to pick a winner. It's in the rules. Dave, AJ's W scoop to your head. Who do you got?
It's a CM Punk situation, no doubt. Best in the world.
Well, you heard that, and we are going from the CM Punk situation to, I've been a fan of this guy for so long. I'm going to call it the Sting situation, because this was hard to hear this week. I did not watch Dynamite, but I heard on the replay that Sting plans to retire at Revolution next year. So that's the first pay-per-view of the year. It's about time. He has gone hard, like he has done in AEW without saying it what Daniel Bryan said like a couple months ago. Like, he's got a year left in him, but he's going to go hard. Sting has gone hard for a good year now. He took part in the Great Muta's retirement earlier this year. It's finally his time to retire. What are your thoughts on it before we speculate about that final match?
The guy's had a hell of a career, no doubt. And this last run in AEW, when we talk about all the bad things in AEW, Sting has been a positive note. He's been a breath of fresh air. He's a legend that didn't just phone it in. He's out there doing things he shouldn't be doing, diving off things. It's crazy. Thank God he hasn't gotten hurt. But because he's put himself out there the way he has, he had one final run with an upstart company that I think only helped really, really redefine his legacy that was already great. And I can't wait to talk more about Sting in the future.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how the stories go wrapping up his career. Who do you see him in a match against at Revolution? Who ends Sting?
It's Darby Allin. That's the story to tell. You could do a world title situation with MJF or somebody. I'd like to see him maybe team up with Copeland or something before they get out of there. But at the end of the day, the story that's probably best to be told is Darby. Or it's going for the world title. It's him maybe having a match with Darby beforehand. He gets to win, and Darby's encouraged him, go out on top, get the big win. And then you put MJF over, and now you're only establishing your world champion more as the biggest star of the company.
If it's a singles match, I 100% see it versus Darby. Let's say it's a tag match. Him and Darby versus who? Who from Sting's past could come back? If Muta hadn't already retired, I'd say he'd somehow be involved in it. He could be ringside. I'm going to say Muta manages the team.
I couldn't tell you. FTR is probably the most established legendary team you have on the promotion. There's not people in his past that could really come out there because
not that they're alive or well. I mean, I'd say Flair, but
Flair, and then Luger unfortunately is in there. Warriors passed away. It's not one of those situations. He's outlasted everybody pretty much. There's nobody really going to be able to put out there. You got to do it. He hasn't had any real singles matches yet either. So I think you have to do a singles match. I'll tell you what, makes no sense the way the story's being billed that we would have to hot shot the shit out of this. You were going to do one more match, all right, as his final match. It's a tag match. Him and Darby somehow win the tag titles, and it's Darby and Sting facing Edge and Christian. All right. And maybe the Hardy Boys, and it's a TLC match where Darby's doing crazy shit, and that's his final match. That's how you would have to do do a tag match, I think, at this point.
I like that as a tag match, but you almost talked me into the singles match with Darby and Sting because of Sting outlasting everybody. And we're definitely going to see Sting at Revolution, but you know what's one more place I'd like to see Sting?
Tell me about it.
Read about the Northern Wrestling Federation in the book presented by Russellville.com, The Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 2. Hear the story of Roger Ruffin, the man who trained Carl Anderson, the Monster Abyss, Jordan Clearwater, Chris Harris, and Jillian Hall.
Plus 45 other short stories including Jazz, Bobby Eaton, Kamala, Thunder Rosa, Mario Mancini, Scott Casey, PJ Black, Kerry Morton, Sal Renaro, Jeremiah Plunkett, Colby Carino, Bam Bam Malone, and many others.
Get your book today at Russellville.com. Russellville, it's where wrestling lives.